Hello everyone, I'm Mukta. I'm a software engineer here at Google, and we're coming at you live today from London. We're going to talk about interviewing at Google today, but we're going to focus not on the entire process, but just the coding interview part of it. But first, I want to start by welcoming all of you. Thank you all for taking the time to tune in today.
So I'm Simon, nice to meet you all. I'm an engineering manager here at Google. I've been with Google for 5 years and I currently work on the Play Store. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be working through a fairly typical 45-minute interview. If you're looking for an intern position, you'll have 2 interviews like this. If you're looking for a full-time role, then you could have an entire day, so up to 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 interviews of this kind that will take place at Google. Today we'll be working on a whiteboard. In reality, you'll either be able to use a whiteboard or maybe use a Chromebook to type your code in.
So many of you have already interviewed with Google, in which case you already know the ropes, but some of you haven't. So today I'm going to be asking Simon a question of the sort you will get asked at a Google interview, and we're going to do a mock coding interview today.
So I've actually already seen the question. Now obviously when you come for an interview you won't have seen the question. If you have, then I would admit to it. You'll get brownie points for honesty. But I'm going to pretend that I haven't seen it and I'm going to make some mistakes and I'm going to do some things right, and we'll see how Mugda reacts to the things I do wrong and the things I do right.
Okay, we also have Yanina and Madhuri moderating our chat today. So please do chime in and ask questions. And we do have a small Q&A section planned at the end of this. And if we do get time, we will get to those questions and hopefully answer some of them for you. Okay?
Great.
Let's get started. Welcome, Simon. My name's Mugda. Hello. I work on the Chrome browser team.
Wow, Chrome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, I really like Chrome. I think I'm telling all my friends all the time to use Chrome. But Google in general is just fantastic. I know that it's like if you want to go and find something, you just go to Google, you type it in, and you get all these amazing things coming up. You get pictures of cats,
Simon's
and cars,
going on and on.
It's just fantastic. And
the interviewer doesn't care. I just want to get to the coding bit, so I'm going to interrupt him.
If you were to hire me, I would just be so good. I'd just go out there and I'd...
Thank you, Simon. Should we get to the coding bit?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Cool. So you're going to enjoy this problem. You have a series of high-tech piggy banks.
Right.
Okay? They're high-tech because they tell you the amounts that inside them, right?
Okay.
So you have a bunch of these, and you have your eyes set on a shiny new Lego set. You know the cost of the Lego set.
Yep.
And you're allowed to break exactly 2 of the piggy banks.
Okay.
Can I grab it? Yeah, cool. So let's say you have 3 piggy banks with these amounts. So 1 Google dollar, 2 Google dollar, 3 Google dollars.
Okay.
And your Lego set costs 4 Google dollars. So you have to figure out which 2 you're going to break so that you can buy your Lego set.
Okay, I think I understand. Let me just check that though. So you're saying I've got 3 piggy banks.
You can have more than 3.
Okay, but in this example, 3.
Yeah.
One Google dollar, 2 Google. How much is a Google dollar? Do we know?
We don't know yet. It depends.
So 1 Google dollar, 2 Google dollars, and 3 Google dollars.
Yeah.
So I need to figure out which 2 to smash to get 4 Google dollars.
That's right.
So I mean 1 and 3 is
the
what
answer,
I would think.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So you said that I might not necessarily have 3 piggy banks. Could I have 1,000,000 piggy banks, 1,000 piggy banks?
That's a great question. Yes, you may have 1,000 piggy banks, but they will fit in memory. So don't worry about memory overflows and things like that.
Okay, that makes sense. And these numbers, you've got 1, 2, and 3 there. Could they get very big? Could I have 10 billion Google dollars?
Great question again. So they will be 0 to 100.
Okay, so they could be empty.
It could be empty.
Right, that's
yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
And could I have duplicates? Could I have 1, 2, 3, and then another with 2?
No, let's keep it simple today. No duplicates.
Okay. Right, so let me just think.
So these are all great questions that Simon's asked to figure out the data set that he's been given. Now he's gone off and he's thinking to himself. It's okay to do that, but at some point, share your thought process with your interviewer. So what are you thinking, Simon?
Oh dear. I can only think of a really stupid brute force solution. And I don't want the first thing I say to be like stupid. Otherwise, Mugdha will just reject me straight away. So I don't want to say anything.
So I think Simon's worried about a brute force solution, and he's not wanting to share that. But I think starting with a brute force solution is a really great way to demonstrate that you can start off simple. So it's good to get your feet wet, start by how a human would solve that problem, and then work with your interviewer like you would with a colleague to come to an optimal solution. So I'm going to insist now. Just share your thought process, Simon. I want to know the brute force solution.
You said there could be 1,000 piggy banks.
Yes.
And the only brute force solution I can think of is order n squared, and that's going to be doing 1,000,000 comparisons. It's just really no point even.
It's okay.
So,
we can work towards the optimal solution. Let's just hear your brute force algorithm.
Okay, all right. So what I'm thinking is that we need to compare all possible combinations of piggy banks.
Okay.
So I've drawn a little. This is what this was about. I'm imagining if you had the 1, 2, 3 up here and 1, 2, 3 down there, and this sort of contains all possible combinations. Some of these would add up to 4, like I suppose 1 and 3 would be 4. So there's a solution.
Right.
And I'm thinking implementation-wise, it would kind of be a nested loop.
That's great. Let's see some code. Let's code it out.
Okay, fine.
Did you say Python was your language?
Yep,
of choice?
Python.
Right.
Python is good.
Awesome. So a lot of times interviewers will want to see some code right off the bat to see your coding skills. It's totally fine to start with a brute force solution.
A. So what I'm doing, this is the nested loop now. So this is where it's going to be order n squared, which is not good.
Simon's telling me literally what he's doing, but not why. And he's using really bad names. He's using func for the method. That's a really bad name. He's got A, B, C, and D. I don't know what they mean. What does C stand for, Simon?
That's the top row here. So that's kind of the first piggy bank that you're opening, and then D I think is the second piggy bank.
Okay. Do you mind using more descriptive names for them, please?
Okay, yeah, I can do that. I thought it would be sort of quicker for you. I didn't want to waste your time with writing long names.
No, it's fine. Take the time you need. So often candidates think that they're wasting time by not using descriptive names, but A, the interviewer cannot make sense of what you're doing, and B, you get confused yourself down the line. So it's good to use descriptive names right off the bat, and you're going to make fewer mistakes when you do so.
So what I'm doing now, I've called the function find pair because we're finding a pair of piggy banks. This is the list that we're going to pass through, is all the banks that we've got.
Right.
This is the cost of the Lego. So I'm going to say for bank 1 in banks, so that's going to be 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Then nested loop is going to the second one, which is also going to be going through banks. And then I can say if bank 1 plus bank 2, so if the money in both of them added together is equal to the cost, then I'm going to need to kneel now. We print it out.
So now that Simon's used better names, I'm able to spot a bug in his code, and I'm going to try to get him to figure that out himself.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty good, actually.
Okay, do you want to run through this with a test case? Maybe let's just use this.
This one? Okay, yeah. I can do that for you. All right, what I might do, let me do it over here, because I don't want to have to kneel for all of this.
Yeah, no, whatever you're comfortable with. So it's always good to run through your algorithm with a test case. You will be able to spot any bugs that you may have missed.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to go through the code. Every time I come across a new variable, I'll write down what its value is.
Okay.
So find pair banks and cost. Okay, so banks is going to equal this. and the cost is going to equal, so my writing's terrible, it's going to equal that. Next line for bank 1 in banks, so bank 1 is going to be 1, so I'll write that here. Bank 1 equals 1, and then let me into the inner loop. Oh, bank 2 equals 1. Then I'm going to add them together, bank 2, so adding them together we get the sum. That's 1 plus 1 is 2. It doesn't equal cost, which is 4. So then I go to the inner loop again. So bank 2 increases. And
so the way Simon's doing this is really nice. It gives a clear idea to the interviewer what your algorithm is doing.
Is 3 still wrong? So then the inner loop goes through again.
So he hasn't spotted the bug yet. Let's see if he will.
Bank 2 equals 3. The sum is 4. So perfect. So this condition is now true. So it'll fall through into this, and it will write on the screen somewhere 1 plus 3 equals 4.
Okay. Will it continue after that?
Yes, there's no sort of break condition, so it will keep going. Okay, so the inner loop will finish. So we'll go back out to there. Bank 1 will become 2, and then back into the inner loop again. Bank 2 is 1, and so the sum, bank 1 plus bank 2, is 3, so that doesn't add up, and then back into the inner loop.
So you can see with nested for loops, it's good to start with a shorter test case so that you can get through it completely in a shorter time frame. And there we go, Simon spotted the bug.
Okay, so I've broken the same piggy bank open twice, haven't I?
And we can't do that, sadly.
Okay, so that's no good.
Yeah. Maybe there's a way to mark something you've seen already so that you don't go over it again. It's like when it's like when you are looking at the first piggy bank, you know the amount inside and you know the sum. So you kind of know the other number that you're looking for.
Oh, I see. So if I know I'm trying to buy something that's 4 Google dollars and I know that I've got 1 Google dollar, then I know that I'm looking for 3 Google dollars.
Right. So maybe there's a way to just look for 3
so if I tracked all the things I'd seen already, made a record of them somehow, and then when I come across the 3, I can say, have I seen a 1 at some point earlier? And
that's really good. So this is really good. Simon's taking the hint I've given and he's running with it. And often your interviewer will give you a hint to guide you towards a better solution. Take it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to rewrite this.
Okay.
Let me move it all up the board a bit.
Sure.
It's getting a bit low down here. Right. So here we go. Let's start again. I'll start a bit higher this time.
Awesome.
So we'll call it find pairs actually.
Find pairs.
So same as before, banks and the cost. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep a list of all the things that I've seen. So I'm going to call it seen.
Okay.
And I'll initialize it as empty.
Okay.
And the plan is that as I see new things, I'll append them to the end of that list.
Okay.
So I can then check if the other half of the pair is in that list.
Is in that list. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds
so for bank 1 in banks. Now actually, let me just work this out. Is it okay if I write a bit of pseudocode? I need to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Move that out of the way. We can remember that's 4, can't we? Okay.
It's actually great to write pseudocode because then you won't forget the overall algorithm. Sometimes in the nitty-gritty of all the for loops and all the data structures that you're using, you tend to lose sight of, in a high-pressure situation, what the overall algorithm was. So it's actually absolutely fine to write a little bit of pseudocode in a side and then write the actual code later.
Right, so this is sort of GCSE maths that I remember from long ago, where I know that if those two, if bank 1 plus bank 2 equals cost, I can rearrange that and take bank 1 over, and so bank 2 is cost minus bank 1. So for example, if I've seen a 3 and I know my cost is 4, then bank 2 needs to be 4 minus 1, which is 3. Yes, anyway. So I'll write that in code. So for bank 1 in banks, so I can now...
We all get our words garbled up in interviews. Don't worry about that.
For bank 2 equals the cost minus bank 1. Okay, so I've got both halves of the pair. And I just want to say, I know that I've got bank 1 because I'm looking at it in the list now.
Right.
I want to say the other one, bank 2, have I seen that already? So I'm going to say if bank 2, if bank 2 is in seen,
Okay.
then we've seen it before, and I need to append it in a minute. But let's just print out there is print. I'll not.
That's
I'll write the
okay.
whole
Yeah.
thing. Then I go up, not inside the if. This needs to be back out again. Scene dot append. So I'm then saying, okay, we've seen bank 1, so we then put bank 1 in.
Right. So this won't run into this won't print 2,2
No,
because you would have when you're considering 2, you're only considering things you have seen
2 won't
already.
be in scene yet.
Right.
I could have appended that earlier. That would have been a bug though had I appended it.
Yeah, that's great.
So I think that's pretty good. And that I think that's order n now as well because there's no nested for loops.
How do you think Python implements this? If X in list.
I don't know, but it could be a linear search through the list, couldn't it? Could well be.
Yeah, think of how Python might implement it, right?
Yeah, I can imagine that it might just be a block of memory and it needs to iterate through checking, if, okay, so this is still going to be order n squared, isn't it?
N squared,
oh,
yeah.
That's annoying. And there's an append operation as well that might be slow there. I don't know how that works either, but...
Yeah, so Python on an average makes it order n, but you're right, it's good to think about that because at a point it will need to allocate a lot of memory and then increase the size of scene as you're appending.
Oh, copy it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But remember what we said about the values earlier, that they will be 0 to 100?
Yes.
Maybe we can use that to our advantage. Because it can't be, there's like a finite list of numbers that you might see in a piggy bank.
Ah, okay. So, yes, I'm imagining now a row of piggy banks sort of on a shelf. And it's really easy to know if I've got a piggy bank with 10 Google dollars in it because it's in the $10 slot. So what I could do, I could have some kind of a map which contains true or false, depending if I've got or if I've seen a piggy bank containing that amount of money.
Right, so this is great. I've given Simon another hint and he's running with it. So in general, it's good to focus on any constraints on the data set that the interviewer has given you because that's a hint towards an optimal solution for that data set.
Okay, so what I'm going to do...
We're going with a map, right?
I'm going to go with a map.
Cool.
I think I'll still call it scene.
That's okay.
I'm going to fill it with...
Scene, isn't it?
I'm going to start the map containing 100 elements, 100 false. I'm going to do that using what's called list comprehension.
Okay.
Scene false.
So now Simon's demonstrating some advanced knowledge of Python by using list comprehension. And in general, your interviewer will be paired up with you because they've said that they're comfortable with that language. So use that opportunity to show off your knowledge of the language if you're feeling comfortable enough doing so.
So this scene list starts with 100 falses in it, and then I'm going to say, this is the same bank 1, bank 2. I'm now then, instead of using the in command, I'm just going to say, if seen bank 2, and it's not actually quite nice to read, isn't it? If seen bank 2, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then we print bank 1 plus bank 2 equals.
Right.
And instead of the append operation, which is, I was worried was slow anyway.
Yeah.
We can just say, we have now seen bank 1 by setting it to true.
Okay, so you make one pass and you mark whatever you've seen as true.
Yeah, and so as we
Okay,
as we
and
sort
if
of,
you've already,
so by the time we get to 3,
yeah, you would
example,
have seen
we'll
one.
have seen one.
Right.
It'll be true in there. So
Awesome. Yeah, this should work. Okay, let's work through a test case here.
okay.
What if you are you have these piggy banks with amounts 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 100, and your Lego set costs $100 Google dollars.
Fine. Okay, let's just do that. It's always good to test the code.
Yes, absolutely. So in general, it's good to have test cases that will have a corner case. Here, Simon has made a simple off by 1 error, and I'm hoping he's going to catch it. It's totally fine to have bugs in your code,
Yeah.
but catch them with a test
Yeah.
case. Great.
So bank 2, for this first one, bank 2 is going to be 100.
Right.
And I'm going to be saying, have I seen element 100 of the scene array? But actually, there's only, the maximum I can index is 99, because Python, like most languages, starts off as a 0 index.
Right.
So
it's going to crash there, isn't it?
yeah, it would crash. So
Let's fix that.
that would be a simple fix, and that would fix it. But actually, now that I'm looking back at this example here,
Yeah.
it would be a bit mad to have to go through to allocate 100 slots there when I've only got 4. So I could just find
Yeah.
the biggest value that we've got
Right.
and use that plus 1. So let me write the code for that, and I think that
So
would be
this is
neat
great.
solution.
Simon has gone one step further and has actually optimized the optimal solution I was trying to guide him to. So I'm impressed, people.
Right, so that's a bit hard to read, but I've said biggest equals max bank, so that tells you the biggest number in that array.
Right.
And then this is biggest plus 1
Okay.
there.
And what do you think the time complexity is?
This, I think, the setting everything to false is going to be order n.
Right.
This for loop will also be order n,
Right.
so that reduces to order
Overall.
n.
Awesome. Yeah, this is perfect. It's going to work and it's optimal. I've enjoyed that. I hope you've enjoyed the coding interview as
Yes,
well.
yes, I have.
Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, goodness me. Yes, I do. So Google must be an amazing place to work.
I like it.
But what's the best thing about working here, and what's the worst thing?
Okay. I always like to say that the best perk I have at Google is the people that I get to work with. They're
Right.
smart, they're driven, they're just a joy to work with. Worst thing. We spend 5 minutes every day at lunchtime trying to figure out which cafe to go to. It's really inefficient, like every single day. So yeah, that would have to be the worst thing.
It's a tough problem to have.
Yeah. Well, over to you guys now. Do you have any questions for Simon and me?
Right, let's
Oh, yeah, let me get to questions.
oh, we have no questions appearing
No
on the deck.
questions.
Ah, here we go. Just refreshing the deck, so we'll get your questions.
Okay, here we go. So the first question is, if we get stuck or we didn't really understand the question, could we ask the interviewer to change the question, or will there be a negative point to that? Rania is asking this. What do you think, Simon?
I think that asking to change the question is not a good idea. Generally what happens is if you get stuck, the interviewer is on your side and the interviewer is looking to hire you. We all want to get great new talent into Google. So the interviewer will give you hints and they will be able to talk you all the way through the problem if needed. It's very unlikely that there's some feature of one particular question that will get you stuck. You could change the question, but if you can't answer the first question, you'll probably struggle with subsequent questions anyway. But just admit it to the interviewer, say, I don't know where to start, and the interviewer won't hold it against you. They'll give you hints and guide you through it.
Yeah, I think the interviewer would probably try to simplify the question, by themselves if you're struggling, and add some constraint that makes it easier. But yeah, I'd say ask them for clarifications and
So
go with it.
the question we had today If I was struggling, I think Mugdha wouldn't have pushed me to the optimal solution. We would have stopped on the brute force one, which would have given some insight into the ability of the candidate. So you will be able to do something in the interview. Right, so thank you for that question. Question 2, as names inside the function should be understandable, because it really helps, that's true, can we still use F for the name of a function? Because sometimes you waste your time making a good function name. That's a question from Daria. No, I wouldn't use F for the name of the function.
No.
So you can say, maybe write it out longhand once, and then say, from now on, I'm just going to write the first letter of the function name. So I could have, called written find pairs, but then if this was recursive, for example, I could have just written F every time. But just make it clear that you're doing that. Okay. Next question.
Could we remove all things that we have written to start from 0 when we receive a hint? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So could we remove all things that we have written to start from 0? Oh, okay. So like erasing everything and start afresh? I think that's what you mean. Yeah, absolutely. If it helps to start afresh, do that. Right? We did that a few times. I think Simon did that in between the first and the second solutions.
Yeah, so what will happen often is if you're working on a whiteboard and you want to rub things out, the interviewer will probably take a photograph of the whiteboard. Okay. So ask permission, say, I'm going to rub this out, is that okay? And the interviewer will take a picture. In reality, the whiteboards are a lot bigger than this. We have entire walls that are whiteboards, yeah. So there's a lot of space. That's a good question. So question 4 is, how long do we get per problem?
So we have 45 minutes, don't we, for the entire interview, and I would say 5 minutes for on either end for explaining the problem and any questions at the end. So the rest of the time is for the problem.
So generally you will get one kind of problem, and it'll be a problem like this, yeah. Which can start simple. It'll have a brute force solution, but can get more and more complex to fill the entire time. So yes, go in expecting one question, and you'll be fine. Okay.
Okay. Next question. Some problems can be optimized using dynamic programming techniques, but sometimes I get stuck when analyzing the time and space complexity of such solutions. So what can we do in this case? So I would recommend working through an example. You have figured out a dynamic programming solution, take a small test case, work through with it, and then it becomes easier what the time and space complexity is. What do you think, Simon?
I think that's a good approach. The other thing that you could do is you could describe your approach to the interviewer and say, I could do this, but I think it's going to be too complicated to do it on the whiteboard. And the interviewer at least will know that you know what dynamic programming is in this instance. And so they'll make notes saying, candidate described complex solution, and that'll be a plus point for you. So thank you, Selma. Question 6, what if I remember a library that makes solving a problem really straightforward? Could I use it and change my data order dict or numpy matrix? Oh, I see, yeah. Or would you better only use basic data types? Do you want to take that?
I think that if the interviewer has given you a certain problem, they probably don't want you to use that special library that will make the problem go away. So it's always good to mention to the interviewer that, you know what, I know of this library, it's really common in Python, I could use that and solve this in one line. That's great. Would you like me to actually implement that myself?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Demonstrate your knowledge and then ask the interviewer. Okay, thank you, Marina.
Next question. What if I use a hash set here to add scene elements instead of a hash map? You could, because we've already said that there are no duplicates.
Yeah, so that's fine. And again, in the interview, say that kind of thing. Give specific examples, and the interviewer will make a note, and it's all good stuff.
Yeah, I'd say whatever data structure you use, it's good to know the basic, how long does insertion take, how long does search take, how long does access take for this data structure. So if you know those things, certainly go for it. And it's a big plus if you're able to use the right data set, data structure for the given data set.
And the other thing to say is that there is not necessarily one correct solution.
Yeah.
The code here today was one solution, there may be another one. Generally, the interviewer will have seen all the variations. Interviewers will have asked the same question to 10 plus candidates. So if you can surprise them with a novel solution, then that's amazing. But if you can't, they will be there to help you push your solution to the end, whatever it is. There isn't one particular answer that they're after. So question 8, I think that's it. Do we have any more questions? Let's wait to see if we can refresh the deck. Oh, the deck is being refreshed.
Right, yeah, we do have another question. Is it better to have an optimal solution with some errors or a perfect brute force solution? I'm Amy again. Thank you for that question. What do you think, Simon?
It's a great question. Spotting edge cases is really important, and specifically it's one of the things that you have to give feedback on. So the fact that I tested code and I found bugs and I fixed those bugs is a really positive thing. If you come up with an optimal solution that only works given certain constraints, and you put those constraints in the code, then that's fine, and probably the interviewer will think that's a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah. So in this case, I guess the interviewer had added a constraint to the data set, so it was totally fine to then come up with the optimal solution.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important in any solution that you give for it to not have off by one errors or not have these little pesky bugs.
Yeah.
So test cases. Okay, question 9. And what if our cost is lower than the min sum of piggy banks? For example, cost is 3 for a set of 1, 4, and 6. Would the solution be 1,4 or 1,6 or something else? That is a great question to ask your interviewer.
Yeah, I didn't ask that one.
You didn't ask that one, did you?
So I should have said, what happens if I can't make the required sum?
Yeah, I think in general, your interviewer will tell you that either to return print a special string in that case, or no piggy banks possible, can't buy a Lego set, I have sad, or they'll say that no, that will not be, that won't happen in the data set that's been given to you.
And it can lead to interesting conversations about how you handle errors.
Yeah.
Different languages handle errors in different ways, and passing the knowledge of that it's failed up to the calling function is a good thing to talk about, and the importance of that in production code.
Yeah.
Question 10, would Simon get the internship based on this mock interview? That is a very good question. What do you think?
I think you would, Simon. I certainly think you will not get fired after this mock interview.
No, this was a good interview. This was a strong interview. I was a bit surly and rubbish early on. But I improved later.
Yeah.
And it's fine. The first 5 minutes of an interview, you can be a bit nervous. But once I hit my stride, it was then good.
Yeah, I think Simon ran with all the hints that I gave him and came up with an optimal solution, worked through test cases. So yeah, these are all the things we look for. Good job, Simon.
Thank you.
Last question. Some problems can be optimized using dynamic programming techniques, but I get stuck when analyzing the time and space complexity. I believe we have seen this question.
Yeah, we talked about that. We didn't talk about figuring out sort of the big O notation time complexity of it.
Right.
So again, yeah, if you've got something and your interviewer is asking you to is this order n log n, what is it? And you don't know, then just admit that you don't know and have a discussion with the interviewer about what you do know and how you would go about figuring that out. Yeah, thank you, Selma.
Okay, well, keep asking your questions on the group, and yeah, someone will get back to you with answers. I think we have to stop here for the live questions today, but it's been great fun.
Yeah, it's been great. I hope that was useful for you. And maybe see you in the corridors of Google in a couple of years' time.
Come say hi if you see us.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.